historic first flight takes off from Israel to the United Arab Emirates. The aircraft is carrying high-ranking Israeli and US delegations to Abu Dhabi for talks. This is the first concrete expression of the so-called peace agreement between the two countries. Nominations for a new prime minister in Lebanon start this Monday. Much of the political class are rallying behind the country's ambassador to Germany. This as France's Emmanuel Macron arrives to pave a way forward based on reforms in exchange for bailout funds. Also coming up on our programme at this hour, protests in Portland. US presidential candidates Donald Trump and Joe Biden exchanged jabs over the ongoing street violence. Meanwhile, the city's mayor has urged restraint. Welcome back to France 24. Those are our top stories at this hour. With me, Sanam Chantier and the team. Now we start with some breaking news this Monday. Sudan's government has signed a peace agreement with the country's rebel groups. All but one of them. This is said to be a pivotal step in bringing the 17-year conflict to an end. A formal signing ceremony is taking place this Monday in Juba. That's the capital of neighbouring South Sudan, which has helped mediate the long-running talks since late 2019. Of course, we'll bring you more developments on this story as they come in. Also this Monday, the El Al jet is carrying Israeli and US government officials to Abu Dhabi. It's the first commercial flight between the Jewish state and any Persian Gulf country. Officials say this is a symbolic and substantive demonstration of improved ties between the two countries, which was signed, and it's been dubbed a historic agreement. Now, earlier this month, that happened. However, according to some observers, this was a peace deal in name only. Let's take a look at that report.
The first flight between Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi, another landmark moment after the normalization of relations and the United Arab Emirates lifting of their boycott on Israel. Now, trade and cooperation can officially kick off on all fronts.
This opens the door for what I can only call unbridled trade, tourism, investments, exchanges between the Middle East's two most advanced economies.
The Israeli Finance Ministry expects bilateral trade to rise roughly to an annual $6.5 billion. On top of tourism, Israeli and Emirati businesses are signing deals in medical research, agriculture. Israel says it will help improve water desalination and crop growing in the Emirates' deserts, technology, and the diamond sector. The deal with the United Arab Emirates strengthens Israel's energetic security. The country gets its oil through Turkish pipelines, but the Emirates bring an alternative route. The normalization will smoothen the transfer of U.S. defense technology to the United Arab Emirates. Those defending the deal say it has helped stop a dangerous escalation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Israeli threat to annex the Jordan Valley. But Prime Minister Netanyahu has said those plans are only temporarily suspended.
Turning our attention to Lebanon, where pressure has been piling from both within and externally to form a new political pact to lift the country out of its multiple crises. This comes a month after an explosion ripped through the capital's port, destroying large parts of Beirut, killing nearly 200 people and leaving thousands homeless. Now it's Lebanon's ambassador to Germany who has been touted to become the country's next prime minister after getting the support of senior Sunni politicians. Lebanese say this is more of the same. The nomination process is taking place this Monday.
He was mostly unknown to people in Lebanon before, and now he could be their next prime minister. Mustafa Adib has been the ambassador to Germany since 2013. He's a Sunni Muslim, as is required to be prime minister in Lebanon's sectarian system. He was put forward by the main Sunni and Christian blocs and is expected to have the Shiite parties vote as well. If voted in on Monday, he'll be tasked with forming a government under international pressure for deep reform. This pressure's led by the French president, who's calling for an overhaul of the constitution and strong and efficient leadership. But Macron himself has said the vested interests of the different religious groups in the country make it almost impossible to carry out reforms. In an address on Sunday, the Lebanese president was keen to show he's at least listening to Macron.
يعني خلاصه من موروثات الطائفية البغيضة وارتداداتها وخلاصه من المحميات والخطوط الحمر.
The protest movement has already rejected Mustafa Adib and any new government he might form, saying he's part of the same ruling class that plunged Lebanon into political crisis and economic collapse.
Now do tune into France 24 for special coverage at 6 p.m. Paris time, live from Beirut this evening. The programme will be presented by France 24 correspondent Leila Moulana Allen. To the US now, where the country's presidential candidates are pointing the finger at each other once again. This as violent clashes continue to roil the city of Portland following the fatal shooting of a protester. Republicans say more chaos and violence are on the cards if Joe Biden is elected, while Democrats say what's happening is Donald Trump's America. Yinka Ayotada has that story.
This moment marked a fatal end to protests in Portland. The city is now accustomed to daily demonstrations since the killing of George Floyd by a white police officer. But Saturday night saw clashes between pro-Trump supporters and Black Lives Matter protesters. The violence triggered a blame game between President Donald Trump and the Democrats. Trump pointed the finger at Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, labeling him as weak and pathetic. But Wheeler fought back.
Do you seriously wonder, Mr. President, why this is the first time in decades that America has seen this level of violence? It's you who have created the hate and the division. Your campaign of fear is as anti-democratic as anything you've done to create hate and vitriol in our beautiful country.
The man killed in Saturday's deadly clashes is said to be a member of Patriot Prayer, a far-right group based in Portland. Trump paid tribute to the victim. Hours before clashes ignited, a rally of pro-Trump supporters drove through the city. Trump took to Twitter praising his sympathizers as great patriots. A wave of new BLM demonstrations have been triggered by the shooting of Jacob Blake by a white police officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The president is expected to visit the city Tuesday to meet with law enforcement, but some fear his visit will only serve to heighten tensions in the country.
And the Italian island of Lampedusa, tensions have been rising over an uptick in the arrival of migrants and asylum seekers. This culminated on Sunday in the mayor calling for a strike aimed at, quote, a government which doesn't have a strategy. Now, over the recent months, the country has been struggling with daily arrivals of hundreds of migrants to its southern shores even. The process has been complicated by security measures in light of the coronavirus pandemic.
Bathers at a beach in Italy's south look on as a column of smoke billows from a boat carrying about 20 migrants. Officials said at least 3 of those on board died after the vessel caught fire. It's the latest drama in the rising influx of migrants to Italy. Almost 400 people packed onto a fishing boat reached Lampedusa on Saturday. Their arrival prompted protest by locals, with some trying to prevent migrants from disembarking.
Stasera Lampedusa dice basta! Stasera Lampedusa dice basta! Governo complice!
Lampedusa's mayor, Toto Martello, said the island could no longer cope with the influx of migrants and called for a general strike on Monday. Just hours earlier, another 49 people were brought to the island. They'd been rescued by the Italian Coast Guard from a dangerously overcrowded charity rescue boat funded by street artist Banksy. The new arrivals were taken to an emergency reception centre on the island, which houses almost 1,200 people, 10 times its maximum capacity. According to Interior Ministry data, some 18,000 migrants have reached Italy's shores so far this year, compared to just under 5,000 in the same period in 2019.
Well, that's it from me and the team. Do stay tuned to France 24.